back after that short break. Now we have with us Dr. Bharat Kulkarni with a session Blueprint for Business Leadership on SDG15. Dr. Bharat Kulkarni is the founding director of Stalwart Management Consultancy Services. He's a consultant in policy advisory and development of agricultural value chains globally. He's a renowned name in agricultural policies globally and has been advising various governments on agricultural policies and market development. He is a regular speaker at prestigious forums like United Nations Annual Experts Meetings on Commodity Markets, Harvard Business School, and World Investment Forum. DCPAT is proud to have you on board, Dr. Bharat. Over to you for your session, Blueprint for Business Leadership on SDG15.
Thank you, Aparna.
Yes, no, it's perfect. Audio is perfect.
And thank you, Santoshji, for giving me this opportunity. It's really great to talk about these issues and say listening to Rajiv. It's really exciting to see how innovations are playing out. So it's really an exciting place to be in. If we talk about the terrestrial and the inland water freshways, the ecosystem, the overall environmental, say the forestry, the environmental issues, immense pressure is there on them. The challenges include biodiversity loss, loss of land degradation, the illicit wildlife trade. All these things are becoming a harsh reality and expanding day by day. And many biodiversity hotspots, including biodiversities in savannas, the grasslands, the tropical rainforest, and all these things are slowly extincting. And we are actually in an era where we are extincting the biodiversity and the environmental resources much faster than they could be replenished. So this is something really to ponder upon. This is something which really is an urgent action in requirement, and what businesses can do. And this is where I think we have to actually understand that businesses they inevitably depend upon the impact of ecosystem, biodiversity, and the land, and they depend on them. And they also have an impact on them. How small the business may be. I may be running a small shop, say, or a small kiosk somewhere in an unknown city of an, say, lesser known country. And then I might be a big multinational integrating all those supply chains across the globe, moving around shiploads of cargoes across the globe. Both the organizations, both the businesses have an impact on environment. I may not be too small. No business is too small to be abject from the impact on environment. And that's why responsibility towards the environment is something which each and every business has to understand, realize, and implement. Say the careful strategies have to implement it in their business, say, policies, how smaller the business may be. And that's something that is very, very important for all of us to realize. It has been documented. A lot of has been spoken about today also, that these impacts are reaching and have, say, in my opinion, they have crossed the crisis level. We are now beyond the crisis level. We are not in a crisis, but we are beyond that. And that's something which worries everybody more than it ever did. The forest losses continue to be at alarming rates. Species are being declared extinct, as I said. And it's the frequency is horrifying. That's the biggest problem. If you actually look at the reports, they would tell you that the rate at which we are degrading using the natural resources is 1.75 times of its replenishment speed, which means we are using close to 2 times the resources of the earth than earth could actually replenish. So we are extincting one full earth of resources in this modern era, which is something really alarming. When you look at in terms of, say, enormity, we are extincting one full earth. It's a huge impact that we are creating. So what should business say? And that's why I think the SDG15, the aim of SDG15 is to curb these outside impacts and pioneer a sustainable development model that allows modern and prosperous global economy. I think there's sometimes we really feel that being responsible towards environment is actually being anti-economic development, or we are anti, say, growth. We don't want growth. That's not the case. We have to develop a system that is dependent on a responsible environmental behavior on one hand, and on the other hand, there is the modern and prosperous economy that can coexist. So we have to coexist. This modern economy has to coexist with all the inhabitants of the land. and every single life on the land has the equal access to the resources and the equal say benefits of the resources. I think that's where we need to move in, and that's what SDG 15 targets to be. So what does business leadership in this whole say scenario look like? The significant scope of business leadership, if we actually look at it, involves understanding and valuing the natural resources, the natural ecosystem, ensuring that activities say across internal operations and the value chain contribute to protecting the ecosystem, and innovating and providing finance for preservation and enhancement of ecosystem. So these are the things which, in my opinion, would make up a sustainable, responsible leadership for businesses that can actually help in achieving the SDG 15. So if you actually look at, there are very small things that we can do, very small things that businesses can inculcate, but that brings in the sensibility towards the larger goal of achieving, the natural, conserving protecting the natural resources, restoring and promoting the sustainable use of terrestrial resources. And if for a small business, a simple change, and this has become a big business in the modern in last few years. Earlier, say when I was say growing up, the organization would flash say their use of say packaged drinking water. In there, you go to a meeting and they would serve you packaged drinking water. In a conference, they put a packaged drinking water bottle in front of you. Now that was something which was considered a status symbol. Today, that is slowly being replaced. Now you have big companies that have come up, that the big suppliers, it is still an unorganized sector in the MSME, that bring a can of packaged drinking water of the same quality, put it there, and you use reusable cups for your staff to actually have the drinking water. Now what does that mean? A simple replacement in your organizational say administration, I would call it, or your housekeeping services, has actually made you a lot of it has actually say helped, however minuscule it may be, but it has actually helped in protecting the environment from biodegradation, and discarding all those plastic bottles, and all those costs on the environment is saved. If all the businesses start to create that, how much opportunities of business we will create for MSMEs to serve that kind of resources and be say socially and environmentally more responsible. These are very small things. We reduce paper waste, go online things, and COVID has actually showed us that as my predecessor said, that it's actually it's not only just an say pandemic is just not an say problem, it's also an opportunity, and it has shown to be more environmentally responsible. Three things which I can point out is, we have learned how to go paperless, we have learned how to say communicate. We are actually doing this through telecommunication, and this is doing wonderfully well. So telecommunication, use of telecommunication, we have started doing better on traveling. Reduction of travel is something which business never thought is possible. Today that is happening. So small level of steps can actually lead to a very sustainable and a responsible say business towards achieving say the SDG 15. If you actually look, I have identified 4 areas which a business leader can do and to achieve the SDG 15. And the first one is implement policies and practices that protect natural environment that are affected by businesses and supply chain. So all these things that I've talking about can actually be done by us without actually putting any cost, or even if we are in an environment where we may not be creating a huge impact, but these things would go a long way to actually add value to the environment. I'll give you an example of Puma, the German say sporting good manufacturer. In 2011, they started with the concept of environmental profit and loss statement. An environmental profit and loss statement, actually what they did was, they're weighing against the product output and earnings, the greenhouse emissions, the greenhouse gas, water waste, air pollution, all these things they were putting together and saying, what is the cost that we are actually putting on the environment? And they were the first people to actually bring that cost into their balance sheet. They realized that about 145 million of cost was there on their what the environmental cost, and most of these were externalized costs. And they slowly realized that if they can actually start to working on a conventionally externalized cost to make it more greener and internalize it, they could actually save a lot of money. And by say next 4 to 5 years, they started to do that, And from the initial work which they did, they went on to compare the externalized life cycle cost of the conventional versus the Go Green initiatives, and realized that the significantly lower externalized cost. And that was something was possible because they implemented the environmental profit and loss statement. This is something which is an example of a small business to a large business, how they can actually bring policies and practices that protect the environment. Small things helping people. Like in India, we saw this happening. We saw this ban on the plastic, but then it was replaced by paper. Can we actually promote? Can the businesses actually promote selling or use of reusable bags? There's a very interesting initiative that has taken by a municipal corporation in a city called Indore, which is the greenest city, which is the cleanest city in India. Of course, the driving force was cleanliness, but actually it added to a lot of SDG15 objective as well. What they did was the municipal corporation realized that cleaning the biodegradable, the plastic and these waste, paper waste and all, there's a huge cost. Why not use that cost to actually give people bags and distribute cloth bags that can create environmentally more sustainable practice? And they started doing that. Today that has become something which is really everybody carries it. That you go to the city, everybody carries those bags with them. They go to that. They have been used by advertisers to create advertisement opportunities, and it has become an interesting. There's whole lot of companies that have actually come in and they're making these bags and supplying it, and it has become an industry itself. It's a very interesting experiment. This can actually be done on a large scale basis. So these are a few things that organizations can implement. Second is research, develop, and deploy products and services and business models that decouple economic activity from the degrading natural resources ecosystem. One very interesting thing which I have been working upon, and this is something which day before yesterday, I was talking to somebody and this question came up in our discussion, that can the green revolution of India be an ideal strategy for generating food security in Africa? Now, food security is another big area. SDG2 covers it. We have to be food secure. We have to work on that. And for that, we need a green revolution. But does the Indian green revolution actually be the model for Africa? Because we have now, if you go to Punjab and those areas, you can realize that how much impact the overutilization of the chemical fertilizers and pesticides and all these things have created. And can we be more environmentally responsible? Can we create a system where SDG2 is not compromised because of the SDG15? And that is where I think innovations have come in. And one of the biggest innovation is the biofertilizers and the pesticides. It's a huge industry which is again dominated by MSMEs. So if a green revolution has to happen in Africa, which I'm sure is going to happen, you create an innovation of using these type of resources, these type of solutions, which can achieve SDG15 as well as SDG2. And that is something which is very interesting. And but is it scientific? And yes, it is, because if you actually look at the data that have come up, it has been revealed that organically managed soil, the organic fertilizers that we use and the biofertilizers that we use, they can store more than 1,000 pounds of carbon per acre. 1,000 pounds of carbon per acre, whereas the chemical fertilizers actually cause carbon loss. So instead of having a carbon loss, we are adding 1,000 pounds of carbon to the land, which is actually achieving SDG15. And the conservation of organic fertilizer can also increase soil carbon by 15 to 28%, nitrogen content by 7 to 15%, and that is something which is needed. So instead of putting all that urea and all the chemical fertilizers, can we move to a more innovative product? And who makes these innovative products? These are made by MSMEs. So that's another area where we can actually be more relevant. Third, similar area is animal protein. Animal protein, there's been a lot spoken about the importance of animal protein and the impact of animal protein. So if you actually look at how much volume of energy and the how much amount of resources go into bringing in 1 kg of animal protein, it's huge. It's not at all proportional. Can we replace it by plant protein? The vegan drive is actually towards that. But people who really say are accustomed to using the animal protein and eating the animal protein, it's very difficult for them to move to a vegan option. Can we create a mechanism where we create the same taste and feel out of a plant protein? And that is where I think cultivated meat and the plant-based meat has come up. The texturization is a technology that is being used and mastered a lot by say small companies who are creating, who are extrusion. They're using extrusion for that. They're extracting proteins and creating layers, and they're creating the same level of meat in taste, feel, and say texture as a plant meat would be, or an animal meat would be. And they're doing it at 1/10 of the cost. If you actually look at these, the data shows that a cultivated meat actually brings down 95% of the use of land, 78% less water, and 92% less global warming, 93% less air pollution. And this is going to be $370 billion industry by 2030. This is another way where business leaders can think of achieving profitability in business, getting into something which never has been done, at the same time contributing to the environmental say issues. And that's something that really makes it so very interesting. Third thing is galvanizing finance. Can we create finance around say SDG15 goals? Can we create finance for protection and development of natural ecosystem? I think a very good example is the IFC's the innovative capital market in bonds, which they call it the forest bonds, which they have successfully used in Kenya. And what they do is these bonds either allow you to withdraw cash or carbon credits, which can actually be utilized to offset your carbon balance sheet. And that is something that has created a lot of innovative finance to support alternative mechanisms. Like, for example, in Kenya, where they have done it, the biggest say source of income for the people living around that village was actually drawing out the natural resources from the village. The IFC's bond has actually creating alternate environment for them and helped regain the forest land, whereby not compromising on the economic development. So new areas of new areas of income has been generated. New areas of professional occupancy have been generated for the people who are hitherto dependent on the natural resources. And that is something that we can think of. Can we create more of such private sector driven financial instruments that can actually bring in? And best minds in the world are thinking around that. Probably 5 years down the line, we would have a lot more private sector driven financial mechanism. Capital markets may actually have a lot more financial level policy or financial products for forest for these type of issues. Lastly, designing and implementing solutions that accurately value and respect natural capital. This is something which always we feel, and I said this earlier also, that probably a lot of people believe that this whole concept of being responsible towards environment comes at the cost of economic deprivation, economic stagnancy of economic development, and all these issues. That's not the case. You can create an alternatively strong economy being responsible towards natural resources, at the same time do not compromise on the economic opportunity. That's possible. And a very interesting example, again, I would like to quote, is from Africa, the Democratic Republic of Congo. There's the Virunga National Park. Now, Virunga National Park is the oldest national park in Africa, which is home to 4 million people. And it is home to the few remaining mountain gorillas, as well as a lot of endangered species. Now, this is something where the challenge is, this whole piece of land, the Virunga National Park, sits on a huge chunk of crude oil base. So beneath the forest, there is the crude oil that is existing. And that means that a lot of companies are interested to remove this forest and start exploring that crude oil. And that is a typical example how deforestation and the environmentally irresponsible acts happen for your own interest towards exploration of natural resources. And that's something that needs to be stopped. So what has happened is, there are a lot of precious metals hidden under the Virunga National Park. But what Virunga National Park has decided to is not to explore oil there, but rather to depend on the healthy fish stock for food and employment, which is a sustainable, which has a very sustainable local fishing industry there, which is worth $60 million a year. That's a huge amount. $60 million out of say that whole area is a huge amount. Now they are actually creating that. Their homes, schools, hospitals, everything is run on the 100 megawatt power that is generated out of hydroelectricity. So they have created an ecosystem around the whole, and then of course the ecotourism and the tourism opportunities are another. So about close to $100 million worth of say annual economy they have created without touching the natural resources that lie beneath the Virunga National Park. And those are opportunities which really need investment. Those are the thought processes that we really need from a business leadership. And those are the thought processes that would give us more opportunities to effectively achieve the SDG15. To conclude, I would say advise that if you have not seen the movie Our Planet, Our Business, it's a wonderful movie that the World Wildlife Federation has come up, which actually captures the whole, say, the enormity of the impact of the and the importance of SDG15. This was actually premiered at Davos, and that actually sparked in 2020, and it sparked off a lot of debate around this. 4 things that come out of that movie, which I would like to quote, is first, let's go zero carbon. So successful businesses should embrace clean technologies that now exist, that are now there, and replace the fossil fuels. I think that's something which we really need to think about. How the leadership looks at it would define their say future foray into the Sustainable Development Goals number 15. Second is minimize the space on say for an organization. Now we have come up with technology where vertical say farms are there. We are talking about lab-based meat production. We're talking about a lot of technologies that can reduce the use of land for manufacturing, production, and all those things. That is something that we need to look at. Business leaders need to start thinking how they can minimize the space an organization uses, how they can actually bring in more and more innovations into that. Third is respect the environment as resources belongs to all, and we should only take what naturally we can replace. So if we cannot replace anything, we should not be taking, and that's where the thought process should go. It may not happen overnight, but this is something which is going to happen over a period of time. If we start thinking that way, I think we would be more responsible towards the goals. And finally, business needs to reimagine success. What does success mean? Is success, we have to decouple prosperity and growth. Is growth only the objective, or prosperity which is the bigger objective, should be achieved? And that is where the thought process of business leaders have to be. That should we actually talk about prosperity? Should we talk about the larger, say, environmental issues, and rather than just concentrating on our growth and say balance sheet profits and all? And we have actually seen, I gave the example of Puma, how they have actually increased their balance sheet strength, just being more responsible. So I think there is a lot of things that the business leaders can think about, talk about, do about, and still be very, very relevant and very profitable business entities, say at the same time being very responsible towards the restoration, the protection, and the conservation of the natural resources. With that, I thank you very much, and thank you for this wonderful opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bharat, for that high energy session. That is really inspiring. Thank you so much for joining us today.